Fox 45 News learned the identity of the 16-year-old killed near his high school. We continue to follow the investigation and the ongoing fight to stop juvenile violence. Our team sits down with former Governor Larry Hogan as he looks back on his legacy in public safety and education.
The way that this entire situation has been handled is nothing more than a power grab.
The investigation on the mayor's conduit deal continues today as city leaders determine if it's the right deal for Baltimore.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Well, breaking this hour, the Ravens are placing the franchise tag on quarterback Lamar Jackson after the two sides could not agree on a long-term deal. An important distinction, it is a non-exclusive tag, meaning Lamar can still talk to other teams while he negotiates with the Ravens. Morgan Atzett will be live at 4:20 to sort out today's decision and the next steps for both Lamar and the Ravens.
It's like the first thing anybody wants to do is pull out a gun and shoot somebody.
I do think that it's a little absurd that children are walking around with guns and shooting one another, but not anything out of the ordinary.
A tragedy strikes a teen and a family and another city school. Yesterday, a Patterson High School student was shot and killed near campus. His death is the latest in a disturbing crime trend among young people. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Fox 45 News has learned the identity of that teen killed yesterday as a search for his killer continues. And we have live team coverage.
Let's go right to Alexa Ashwell with the latest developments. Alexa.
Kai, Mary, the Baltimore Police Department has identified this teen as 16-year-old Isaiah Carter, a student here at Patterson High School. Classes there canceled in the park. We're told he was shot and killed near the benches you see right next to the school. I want to go ahead and show you a picture of this teen. According to Baltimore City Schools, Isaiah Carter was a member of the junior ROTC. Metro Crime Stoppers sharing this photo and today announcing an $8,000 reward is now on the table for information regarding his homicide. Detectives back out at the scene today. We saw a forensic tech taking some pictures. The department has not yet released any additional details on the investigation, including what they believe led up to this homicide. The police commissioner saying officers responded to the park after reports of a shooting around 2 yesterday afternoon. So while school was still in session and found the teen lying on the ground with gunshot wounds, Commissioner Harrison adding witnesses reported hearing the shots and then seeing multiple people scatter from the teen. Neighbors today heartbroken and frustrated.
I'm a retired teacher, so it breaks my heart. Like, it's disgusting, and I feel so terrible. The parents think they're in school, and here they are dead in the park. I mean, last night I was like in tears.
Police have not yet released any suspect information. Classes canceled today at Patterson High School. We're told they will resume tomorrow. Now, coming up at 5, we'll have some comments from the superintendent regarding this incident and others that we've seen here across the city. For now, reporting live in Southeast Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Carter is the 6th Baltimore City public school student murdered this year. In January, 16-year-old Deontay Dorsey was shot at Edmondson Village Shopping Center.
His family at the time speaking out, saying he wouldn't likely be the last Baltimore teen to fall victim to the city's crime crisis. Through Vigna, the family spokesperson, joins us live now in the studio. Thank you for being here. Your reaction, and I think it's worth saying again, he is the 6th teen killed in the city this year, a city school student.
It is unbelievable and heartbreaking. Thank you for having me. The family of Deontay Dorsey had to go through this just 2 months ago. They had to bury their son, a 16-year-old from Edmondson, and it's very easy to lose track of how many young people's lives we've lost already. Deja Garrison was 17 years old. Andres Moreno was 16-year-old. Lauren Henderson was 15 years old, and Dante and now the young Mr. Carter were both 16 years old. We're going to start forgetting those names because it is happening at such a pace. The city's leadership needs to understand that this is a grim cycle, that if nothing wakes them up, if the violence of the last 8 years has not done enough to wake them up, this surely has to.
At the scene yesterday, through at this shooting, City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelice spoke about efforts to keep school students safe. Let's listen to what she had to say when asked if city schools are doing enough to protect students.
There are protocols keeping young people safe. This shooting did not occur inside of the school building. However, those of us who have worked with adolescents over long periods of time know that when young people want to find a way out, right, we cannot have our eyes in every place at the same time.
First of all, what's your take on this? And while we don't have a suspect in custody, what we've seen many times in these instances is it's another teen taking the life of a teen. And the question becomes, where are these teens getting guns from?
Yeah, look, Dr. Santalese is right that ultimately the responsibility of the schools is to educate the children, and the responsibility of law enforcement, police and prosecutors, is to address public safety. But at the end of the day, this responsibility is shared by all of us. Each of these lives lost is a reflection of our collective failure. So to quickly abdicate responsibility and say, this wasn't on us, I don't know that that addresses the core problem. But at the end of the day, there are kids sneaking out of schools all across the state, all across the country. This unique problem of children being gunned down in the middle of the day is specific to Baltimore. There is something wrong with the approach that we have taken, and yet we continue to adhere to it. Enough is enough. You've heard that expression, but that has to translate not just into words, but also actions and enforcement.
And what Kai just said, easy access to guns for these young people.
Absolutely.
All right. Thuru Vignarajah. Thuru, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Thuru also represents the family of Deontay Dorsey.
This bill is about holding youth accountable for the crimes they commit, not a legal fiction that fails to consider the mental development of children.
Well, in Annapolis, we're following a number of public safety bills. One of them deals with juvenile crime. The Youth Accountability and Safety Act eliminates the ability for prosecutors to charge somebody 25 or younger with felony murder. Supporters say the plan is about appropriate charges for what was done, but those against the move say the bill is irresponsible.
This bill is about holding youth accountable for the crimes they commit, not a legal fiction that fails to consider the mental development of children.
I find it a little odd that our body is trying to now get people to vote at 16, to do all kinds of things as minors, yet this area where they need to be held accountable for murdering people, we're saying, oh no, they can vote, they can consent to drugs, but they can't do this.
Well, still to come at 4:30, Megan Gillen speaks with a former police chief regarding this felony murder bill. Olivia Dance will press Baltimore County Executive John Olszewski on youth crime. And then at 5:30, the latest on concerns over mass incarceration, why some are sounding the alarm on a public safety bill being pushed by Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates.
This year, fatal and non-fatal shootings are down in Baltimore compared to this time last year. 45 lives, however, have been lost so far, and 86 people have been shot and survived.
But the last 8 years have been very difficult for our city, as more than 300 lives have been lost each year. Mackenzie Frost had a chance to sit down one-on-one with Maryland's former governor. Mackenzie, you asked former Governor Hogan, about the city's crime crisis. What did he have to say?
Well, a lot, Mary, and we know that this was something that former Governor Larry Hogan really put an emphasis on during his time in office, specifically the Violent Firearms Offender Act. That piece of legislation passed the Senate 2 years in a row, but failed to gain any traction in the House. And this year, we're seeing Republicans in Annapolis continue that effort, reintroducing this piece of legislation that they say would really seek to crack down and implement stricter penalties on gun offenders, specifically repeat offenders. Didn't clear the House while you were in office. Do you think that they're barking up the wrong tree with this bill that didn't see success in the past, or do you think it's worth it?
No, I think it's absolutely worth it. I think it's one of the most important things we can possibly do, which is why we pushed for it every year. Things have changed a little bit since then.
And Hogan says that change, specifically, he's talking about the election of City State's Attorney Ivan Bates that we saw take place in November. And I also asked the former governor about Bates' bill that he's pushing in Annapolis right now. We'll have more on his answer coming up at 5. Mary and Kai?
Sure. And Mackenzie, Larry Hogan is in the news, obviously, because of his announcement not to run for president. Did he talk about what went into that decision?
Yeah, a lot of it, really. He says that he did some soul searching and really realized that there just simply wasn't a path forward for him as seeking the nomination, especially when you look at the GOP, the party where it is, and his place in the moderate lane. He says that he has gone to several early voting states. We know he went to Iowa, New Hampshire several times talking to voters, but he says really what's best for the party right now, he believes, is taking a step back and working on helping other candidates with their efforts.
I did a lot of soul searching. It basically came down to both personal decisions and, I thought it was the right thing to do for the party and the country. I didn't want to have, I think there's a small lane for people that are kind of traditional, common sense, conservative Republicans. And if you have too many people running in that lane, it just helps Donald Trump become the nominee, which I did not want to see happen.
Do you think? Now, there's also some news today about a potential third-party ticket and a third-party effort. This idea is coming from the centrist group No Labels, and that's a group that former Governor Larry Hogan is a national co-chair of. I asked him about this idea of a third-party ticket in 2024. He says that it's an interesting idea, and you'll hear more about that answer coming up at 5:30. But for now, we're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Breaking overnight, a state police trooper is shot in Dorchester County. New video shows the scene near Route 50 in Vienna. Police say it happened during a traffic stop around 10 last night. They say the driver pulled out a gun and fired at the trooper before taking off. Police say the driver was later found dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The trooper has been released from the hospital and placed on administrative leave.
This just in, a Baltimore County police officer shot in last month's manhunt in Cockeysville continues his journey of recovery. That is Detective Chi. Now, David Linthicum has been arrested and charged with shooting Detective Jay Chi. This was the scene this afternoon outside the University of Maryland Rehabilitation and Orthopedic Institute. Detective Chi has been receiving medical care after he was shot February 10th. According to charging documents, he was shot multiple times before his car was taken by the suspect. At one point, he was on life support.
Well, just yesterday, that 24-year-old who was the subject of the manhunt was indicted. David Linthicum now facing 27 counts. The indictment includes 16 new counts alleging Linthicum tried to murder 2 officers. The manhunt began after his father called officers saying his son was suicidal. Linthicum is being held without bond.
Happening tonight, the mayor's controversial conduit deal is up for debate.
The mayor signed off on that deal less than a month ago without the full support of the Board of Estimates.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has more on what we can expect from tonight's public hearing. Rebecca?
Well, for the past few weeks, the mayor has been doubling down, saying this deal is what's best for Baltimore City. But that has many of those who oppose this deal questioning, so then why the rush? About 3 weeks ago, the mayor approving the contract with BGE, despite Comptroller Bill Henry and Council President Nick Mosby boycotting the meeting in an attempt to prevent its passing. Henry and Mosby arguing they need more time to vet the multi-million-dollar deal, a deal they're now calling invalid, saying the mayor defied city laws by pushing the contract through despite their absence.
The way that this entire situation has been handled is nothing more than a power grab and move that suits the interests of private industry.
What we're missing here is a judge. I think we've reached the point where it's clear that we just have to agree to disagree.
Now, the mayor's decision to move forward without their support has caused a great deal of controversy, both on the Board of Estimates and among those inside City Hall. Tonight, BGE's executive board will be questioned by City Council about planned maintenance and any other concerns Council has related to their management of the city's conduit system. It will be the final investigative hearing BGE's board will have to face. It's scheduled to start tonight at 5, so stay with us. Later on in the broadcast, we'll update you on what's discussed. But for now, outside of City Hall, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Deaths among infants on the rise in Baltimore. The information being shared to prevent these tragedies.
Congress about to get its latest assessment on global threats and if the U.S. is ready to handle them. I speak with the senator at the head of those hearings coming up.
Breaking news tonight from the Baltimore Ravens. The franchise tag deadline has passed. The decisions the Ravens make regarding Lamar Jackson.
And the afternoon commute, a windy and chilly one. Temperatures falling from the 50s back into the 40s by about 7 p.m. Mostly clear skies. I'll let you know when the next weather maker moves in and what our risks are of rain and snow. My Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Breaking news, a chicken identity. Mexico's president says one suspect is in custody.
Tomorrow, the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee will hold its annual hearing on worldwide threats, and they're stacking up quickly.
That's right. The heads of the CIA, FBI, and National Security Agency, among others, will testify about America's biggest concerns. But is the U.S. prepared?
Sinclair's chief political correspondent, Scott Thuman, joins us live from Washington after getting a real assessment of what's keeping Washington up at night. Scott.
Yeah, Mary and Kai, Russia and China, you hear it often repeated over and over in the news these days, but that hasn't always been the case for the last decade. Plus, when focus may have been elsewhere to some degree, and now the question is, have we been keeping up with those concerns? One top senator telling me we've got work to do. In the hallways of Capitol Hill, escalating chatter over global foes Russia and China, nuclear powers acting boldly. But some worry the shift to attention has been slow after years of intense focus on wars in the Middle East. We caught up with Chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner.
There was an enterprise that was created for more than a decade, where the vast majority of our focus was on anti-terrorism, the Middle East. I think we are shifting. I think it could be sped up.
He's not alone. The Wall Street Journal reports the U.S. is not yet ready for the era of great power conflict, citing simulated war games in which America suffered devastating losses. And despite an $800 billion defense budget, the U.S. needs submarines to counter China's Navy. Missile production is lacking, and action could extend well into the Arctic, where the U.S. lags way behind on its fleet of icebreakers. For full measure, we went north off the Alaska coast to see one of America's two major icebreakers out at sea.
So we left Coast Guard Station Kodiak. Now we're over the Gulf of Alaska, and just behind me here, that is the Healy. It is the most technologically advanced and newest icebreaker. But as always, they say they could use more in what many people are terming a race to the north.
As the Coast Guard plays catch-up while Russia eyes new military bases and energy resources. The Chinese government, too. Meanwhile, nuclear saber-rattling by Vladimir Putin, also a red flag, Admiral John Kirby recently told me.
I wish I could tell you we could just blow them off. We can't. Because it's Mr. Putin, because it's Russia, because he has such a big nuclear arsenal.
But Warner says America does have a distinct advantage.
We have allies and friends around the world. In most cases, the authoritarian nations, China and Russia, they may have customers, they don't have friends.
Warner telling me they also have evolving threats like artificial intelligence and technologies that need to be countered adequately by the Pentagon, by this government. And he says to do so, you have to look beyond that $800 billion, very large budget the Defense Department has, and start to look for more public-private initiatives, seeing the two team up to combat that worry.
Well, we'll
Marian Kai.
We'll see if it happens. Scott Thuman reporting live from D.C. for us tonight. Thank you.
Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell appears before the Senate Banking Committee. The Fed has raised interest rates at the quickest rate in years to fight inflation, but it remains stubbornly high. Powell says more hikes are coming and will likely stay in place longer.
Although inflation has been moderating in recent months, the process of getting inflation back down to 2% has a long way to go and is likely to be bumpy.
Well, in a New York Times op-ed, President Biden said he plans to put forward a budget this week that would, quote, that will, quote, the Medicare Trust Fund, make the Medicare Trust Fund solvent beyond 2050 without cutting a penny of benefits. Many have speculated that around 2030, Medicare is going to be insolvent, meaning they won't have enough money to pay out benefits. He writes, through, quote, modest increases in contributions from high-income earners, also known as tax hikes, the government can better negotiate drug prices and reduce the deficit by $2 trillion over the next decade and beef up the Medicare fund.
Well, looking ahead, get ready to party all night long. Yes, with Lionel Richie and Earth, Wind and Fire this summer, the R&B and funk legends announced they will be teaming up for a string of 20 concerts billed as Sing a Song. I won't try to do that one, Kai. You
Sing
get
it.
to do that.
Kia
All night long tour
tickets.
across North America already?
She did.
I love that.
Yeah.
The tour kicks off August 4th and makes its way to CFG Bank Arena here in Baltimore on the 19th of August. Pre-sale began this morning. Kai's wife already got her tickets. Go on sale to the general public March 13th at 10 a.m. That is going to be such a good concert.
I think she's taking me.
You think?
She said she got 2 tickets, but she didn't say I'm taking you.
Text if I can go.
Find out.
And
I
then
don't
you
know.
got to get the tickets for August 20th when Mary Bavalo is going to be
Oh, can you
at
imagine?
the CFG
Yeah,
You
right.
can do it.
Arena.
No, this is exciting.
Me,
It's great.
Jonathan, and Morgan have front row seats when you have your performance.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll be
perfect.
there. I love the pipes.
And
They
you will
sound
be
great.
the only ones there, so that's nice.
Well, Mother Nature, we could sing her praises today because of all the sunshine. But, it wasn't warm, we won't say. And actually, we're getting into a pattern now where it looks like we're going to be below average as we head through the next few days. HT radar looks all right, although there's some snow showers, actually a sign of some of that colder air that's up around Boston, Massachusetts, and into Montreal, and then into New York State as well. Then there's some showers from St. Louis back to Kansas City, Wichita, and looks like more rain heading into the West Coast. How about that? More drought busting going on there. 52 right now here. Clear skies in Baltimore as we take a beautiful look on the Toyota Ishida Harbor Sky Cam. Winds out of the west-northwest. Hold on to your hats. 21 miles an hour. Humidity at 25%. And those winds have been a problem all afternoon. About 15 to 25. Some gusts up to 40 plus here in Baltimore, and that's making those temperatures at 52 in Baltimore, which is actually about average for this time of year. Feel colder than they are, like a 51 here at Cockeysville, 51 at Annapolis. There's a warmer weather down to the south, and that continues to move away. We're going to be seeing temperatures that are, again, right at or maybe even a little below average next few days as we see this ball of colder air, 15 to 25, 30 degrees colder than 24 hours ago out in the Ohio Valley as a cold front settles down to our south. So I've got a couple of flurries up towards the state line earlier today. Now the colder air is working in, and then we're still going to have to watch now as that colder air does become more a part of our forecast. Maybe precipitation type as the next couple of weather makers move in by the end of the week. So temperatures falling down into the low to mid 30s already just prior to midnight tonight, and then into the upper 20s by early tomorrow morning. Sunshine back for tomorrow. Nice day. But again, it's going to be on the cool side with high temperatures probably edging up right close to about 50 degrees. We'll go with 51 there, 52 on Thursday. Some rain showers Friday into Saturday. Some computer models do say there could be some wet snow mixed in. We'll just have to see with those chilly temperatures. And then it looks like at or below average. The normal high is 51 as we head into early next week.
Baltimore seen an increase in sleep-related infant deaths. The information you need to know about safe sleep practices.
I will kill every man on this plane. So where are they? Where's Homeland Security?
An exclusive video shot as a man threatens to stab a flight attendant and open a plane's door midair. We'll also hear from a passenger on that flight. And next, breaking news on Lamar's future with the Ravens. Morgan Atzett joins us with the late-breaking details. Quarterback Lamar Jackson will not become a free agent next week. As expected, the Ravens used the franchise tag on Jackson right before today's 4 p.m. tag deadline. Morgan Atzett joins us now with what this means moving forward. Morgan?
Yeah, Mary, the Ravens using the franchise tag on Lamar Jackson and right up to the tag deadline was expected after 2 off seasons of failed negotiations with Jackson, who represents himself to reach a long-term deal. The Ravens did make this tag incredibly interesting and risky today. They went went the cheaper route with the non-exclusive franchise tag. This means the Ravens keep Jackson from becoming a free agent next week when the new league year opens March 15th. But other teams can now begin talks with Jackson to try to land him. The Ravens would then have a chance to match that offer or let Jackson go and receive 2 first-round draft picks. The non-exclusive tag is projected to be just north of $32 million for 2023. If no offer takes Jackson away, he could play under the tag, but he still has to sign it and doesn't have to report at all this summer. He could even sit out this upcoming season, which seems highly unlikely. Jackson would not be paid then. The Ravens announced a tag with a statement from GM Eric DeCosta. It reads, having not reached a long-term deal with Lamar Jackson, we will use the franchise tag. There have been many instances across the league and in Baltimore when a player has been designated with the franchise tag and signed a long-term deal that same year. We will continue to negotiate in good faith with Lamar and are hopeful that we can strike a long-term deal that is fair to both Lamar and the Ravens. Our ultimate goal is to build a championship team with Lamar Jackson leading the way for many years to come. Both sides have until July 17th to reach that long-term deal. If not, it's the tag. But before all of that, the Ravens need to make cuts or restructure deals by next Wednesday for cap space to cover Jackson's $32 million.
I will kill every man on this plane.
A man tackled by passengers later arrested after this mid-air scare Sunday. Hear from a passenger about what happened.
We know that having co-sleeping in unsafe environments is leading to infant death.
An alarming increase that needs to be addressed. The latest on infant safe sleep practices.
Our kids are falling further behind. And they've been falling further behind for years.
Baltimore City schools experiencing concerning graduation rates. Project Baltimore explains what challenges schools are facing. Protect.
The future of the Boost program remains in limbo in Annapolis. That's the scholarship program offering funding for students from low-income families to go to a non-public school.
That's right. FOX45's Mackenzie Frost has been following the budget cut proposal to the program, joins us live with what former Governor Hogan is saying about the plan.
Mackenzie, Hogan was a big supporter of that plan as well, right?
Yeah, Kai, that's right. He was a big backer of the program and says that he actually advocated for the General Assembly to put more money into the program. And last week, we saw hundreds of students and educators rally in Annapolis, urging lawmakers not to move forward with the proposed budget cuts. We know that Governor Wes Moore is proposing to cut $2 million of the $10 million program as this budget process plays out. But we also know that about 3,000 students currently have Boost scholarships. Many of them are in Baltimore City. And the former governor, Larry Hogan, says that the scholarship program allows these low-income families to take their students and put them in a different educational setting instead of perhaps persistently failing schools. Hogan also says that he believes the state of Maryland has money to fund this program as well as give the funding necessary to public schools.
We're now doing $4.9 billion a year more into the public schools. This is a tiny drop in the bucket. I think we should put way more money into it rather than cutting the money. I'm glad to hear that the Senate President Ferguson also says he doesn't want to cut the funding. I think it's a mistake.
Should it be codified?
I think it should.
And we know that Senate President Bill Ferguson says that he believes that there is enough money to do both, saying that the $10 million for the Boost program is really just a drop in the bucket to the more than $4 to $5 billion going to public schools coming from state funding. Now, whether the Senate President can urge other lawmakers in Annapolis to restore that funding is something we'll continue to follow in Annapolis, especially as the budgeting process plays out and we get a little bit closer to the final day of session on April 10th. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Baltimore City hits a 9-year low in the percentage of students graduating high school in 4 years.
Project Baltimore's Chris Papps looked at the recently released 4-year graduation rates from 2022. He found 10 high schools in Baltimore City where fewer than half the students graduated in that period.
It looks wonderful.
It's bright.
It is.
The year was 2017.
It's another stepping stone on the path to change the outcome for children.
Project Baltimore was there as the Baltimore Ravens announced a $1.5 million donation to Renaissance Academy, a high school in West Baltimore. Ravens Hall of Famer Ed Reed helped unveil the upgrades, which included a science lab and an art studio.
You want to make sure they have an environment that they can go to and it changed their lives in a great way, positive way.
Then Principal Nakia Rowe was fighting to keep the school open, saying the Ravens' investment could be a game changer for student outcomes.
We're hoping for a large return on that investment.
In 2017, when the $1.5 million was donated, Renaissance Academy had a 4-year graduation rate of 52%. Graduation rates are based on the number of students who earn a diploma in 4 years, beginning in 9th grade, and adjusted for any students who transfer in or out of the school. Last year, in 2022, the 4-year graduation rate at Renaissance had plummeted to 14.9%. Out of 67 students beginning in 9th grade, just 10 went on to graduate in 4 years.
So the solution here is not simply money.
Anaban Basu is an economist and former member of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners.
Our kids are falling further behind. And they've been falling further behind for years.
And the graduation rates reflect that. At 68.7%, Baltimore City has the lowest 4-year graduation rate in Maryland, and it's gone down every year since 2018. That year, 72.2% of city school students graduated in 4 years. It then fell to 70.3%. By 2022, it had fallen to 68.7%, the lowest in 9 years. Out of 37 high schools in Baltimore City, we can see graduation data for 33. Project Baltimore found 10 of those 33 schools had a 4-year graduation rate below 50%. That's 10 Baltimore City high schools, where over 4 years, more students didn't graduate than did.
A lot of this data is informing, confirming, and helping to refine that work that we will come back to the board and update you on and roll out, frankly, to the broader community later this spring.
At this recent school board meeting, CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises addressed the drop in graduation rates. The district explained the steps it's taking to improve student outcomes, including summer learning, implementation of student learning plans, and stricter attendance verification. In her remarks at the meeting, the CEO spoke about the impact of COVID, saying the shutdowns made an already challenging situation more challenging.
Frankly, challenges that existed previously that were exacerbated. So I don't want to act as if, these were some kind of new challenges.
Yes, the pandemic accelerated the rate of decline in the pace of learning. That's true. But we've been seeing assessments of test scores, for instance, declining since 2013. And so the question becomes, what is the answer?
Basu says the current school board should consider closing persistently failing schools and place those students in schools with a higher rate of success.
Clearly, when you have schools with a 14% graduation rate in Maryland, we've got a major problem, and we have not solved the issue.
Basu also says there are not enough highly qualified teachers. The teachers' unions are powerful, which Basu says can make it difficult for schools to fire underperforming teachers.
I think the taxpayer can expect to see better performance from Baltimore City schools when we have a commitment to the kids. In other words, there are a lot of adult stakeholders in the system that I think compromise the quality of education.
Baltimore City is not the only school system to see a drop in its four-year graduation rates. Coming up on Wednesday, we'll show you the other school systems seeing setbacks and what the state superintendent is saying about it. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
A Baltimore City student shot and killed steps away from his school. Police today identifying him as 16-year-old Isaiah Carter, a Patterson High School student. He was killed at the Joseph E. Lee Park yesterday afternoon. There is now an $8,000 reward for information. Isaiah is now the sixth city school student killed this year.
We have team coverage tonight. Megan Gillen reports on changes lawmakers are hoping to make when it comes to addressing young people in crime.
First, Olivia Dance joins us live from Towson after questioning Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski on public safety, unrelated to that story.
Well, the most recent shooting happened about 2 weeks ago here in Towson, just off of Delaware Avenue, and this really happened in the heart of Towson. I want to give you some perspective because just down the road here is Towson Circle. Now, this deadly shooting killed a Baltimore City school student, a 17-year-old boy. Now, on Super Bowl Sunday, there was another shooting near Chesapeake and Washington Avenues, and earlier in February, 3 people were raped at gunpoint off of Towson Circle. With residents now concerned over their safety, Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski is promising to increase safety measures.
First, say it was a swift and it was a strong response. We did step up our patrols, both on foot. We're looking at bike patrols, more cameras, more lights, additional license plate readers. So we are really taking proactive measures.
Baltimore County is increasing police patrols, cameras, and lighting in Towson. And right now in Annapolis, proactive steps are being taken as some Republican-backed bills are aiming to make gun theft a felony and increase penalties for repeat gun offenders. The county executive says that safety is his top priority, so I asked him if he would support this legislation. Take a listen to what he said.
We support proactive measures to keep our community safe. I don't know that we've weighed in specifically on those pieces of legislation, but we support legislators taking action to make sure our communities are safe.
And the county executive told me that he will look into those bills, but didn't exactly say if he supports them. He also says that the county will continue to work with business owners and residents to find more ways to keep Towson safer. But for now, reporting live in Towson, I'm Olivia Dance, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Olivia. In Annapolis right now, lawmakers are weighing a bill that will ensure young people under the age of 25 are not charged with certain crimes. Megan Gillen speaks with the former police chief for perspective.
A proposed bill in Maryland would prevent anyone under the age of 25 from being charged with felony murder. It's called the Youth Accountability and Safety Act. Law enforcement expert Mari Richards weighing in. In Maryland, felony murder happens when someone is killed while a felony crime like robbery is being committed. What are your thoughts on changing this for those under 25?
Well, it would be absolutely outrageous and result in more crime. It's really important to see where we're at. Last year with Senator Carter's Juvenile Justice Reform Act, it really opened the floodgates. I mean, there is a crime wave of youth violence going on right now, but instead of the legislator debating to rescind that, we're hung up on, whether a 25-year-old should be charged with murder.
Well, proponents argue the brain is not fully developed until later. Right now, we know the bill is working its way through the House. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
Health officials provide an update this morning on the sudden spike of infant deaths in Baltimore. According to reports, in 2022, there were 18 total infant sleep-related deaths, an increase compared to 16 in 2021 and 14 in 2020. Assistant Commissioner Rebecca Dineen of Baltimore City Health Department says we need to remember the ABCDs of infant safe sleep.
All babies should be sleeping alone, on their back, in a crib. Don't smoke. That's the ABCDs of infant safe sleep. We know parenthood is stressful, but if we can remember those ABCDs, alone, on your back, in a crib, don't smoke, we will do a really great job in preventing these infant deaths that have happened recently.
Well, expecting women and families can call Healthcare Access Maryland to learn about the services, programs, and resources that are available to them.
Is the quality of the air outside better than it is inside your home? Why that may be the case in the winter months, and we offer some solutions coming up.
Tell them to bring SWAT to shoot me down, because they're going to have to shoot me down today.
A rowdy passenger on board a United Airlines flight threatens to stab flight attendants and open the door mid-air. We hear from a passenger on that flight and how the events took a turn.
kill every man on this plane. So where are they? Where's Homeland Security?
A crazy situation. This is all caught on camera. You're looking at exclusive video from a disruptive passenger on board a flight from Los Angeles to Boston Sunday. Witnesses say that man threatened to stab a flight attendant and open a door midair. A passenger on board that flight shared exclusive video with our Sinclair sister station in Rhode Island. Leanna Falk has the full story.
Tell them to bring SWAT to shoot me down, because they're going to have to shoot me down today.
Trouble on United Flight 2609.
Wherever it is, there's going to be a bloodbath everywhere.
45 minutes from landing in Boston.
Don't approach me, because I'm bold as far.
When police say 33-year-old Francisco Severo Torres of Leominster, Massachusetts, started berating passengers and crew.
He was talking about Nazis and raping women, and men were going to pay.
Lisa Olson of East Greenwich was flying from L.A. to Boston with her husband and teenage daughter.
She wouldn't even let me touch her. She thought we were going to crash.
In the video, Torres is seen arguing with one of the passengers seated behind him. He then starts calling out for Homeland Security.
Where's the Homeland Security with the gun? Because I'm waiting for them to point the gun at me so I can show everybody that I won't die when I take every bullet in that clip to wherever in my body they shoot it, and then I will kill every man on this plane.
He continues yelling, then stands up.
Another woman tried to approach him. He was getting agitated still.
Passengers try to step in.
Why are you even talking? Shut up, Jason. Just shut up. Shut up and sit down. Nobody cares.
Then flight attendants.
I don't care if I'm scared of you. I don't care. If you're men, you can run. I won't kill you.
Moments later, he steps into the aisle.
I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now.
Torres is seen walking backwards, revealing a sharp object in his right hand. Prosecutors say it's a broken metal spoon. He approaches two flight attendants when he attempts to stab one of them in the neck. A group of male passengers immediately charge at Torres to restrain him. He was placed in zip ties while each of them took turns holding him down until they landed.
That was amazing. It did remind me of 9/11 when you heard of them doing the same thing and taking the plane down. They didn't hesitate.
That was Leanna Falk reporting. Police say Torres was charged with 1 count of interference and attempted interference with flight crew members. He faces life in prison and a $250,000 fine.
All right, taking a look at the current HD radar. A couple of snow showers, flurries off to our north and east. And this morning actually had a few of those down around the state line of Pennsylvania and Maryland. So if you saw a couple of flakes, no, your eyes were not deceiving you. But those continue to kind of push off to the north and east and away. Now, you work your way out to the west. There's a few rain showers, Kansas City out to Indianapolis. I think we're going to have a couple of days of quiet weather. Chilly weather. We've been promising you that it looked like as we headed into March, it was going to get a little cooler than average. Well, we are in now that pattern. Looks like we'll stay there probably through the 7-day forecast, and that makes our weather a little more interesting. 52 now, winds out of the west-northwest at 21. The winds have been gusty all day long. Out of the west and northwest, about 15, 20, gusts up to about 40 plus. Here in Baltimore, 31. Down at Annapolis, temperatures are in the upper 40s to right around 50, which is a slight bit below average by a degree or two than where we should be for this time of year. The colder numbers off to the north and west. Take a look at that. Columbus, Charleston, even here in Baltimore, all temperature deficits over 24 hours ago as a cold front swings quickly down to our south. We stay in the chilly weather. It's even colder weather yet that's out to our west. So as this next weather maker gets its act together across portions of the Mississippi Valley through about Thursday, colder air sets in and things again could include a cold rain, maybe even some wet flakes as we head into Friday into early Saturday. So the future scan says temperatures in the low to mid 30s overnight into maybe the upper 20s by early tomorrow morning. So you might have to do a little bit of scraping, although I think the wind may be a little too high to get a whole lot of frost. And then temperatures by tomorrow afternoon going to be touching probably near 50 degrees. There's your 7-day forecast. 49 tomorrow, lots of sunshine, 52 on Thursday. Again, most of this stuff probably shouldn't be sticking, but we'll have to watch here Friday into Saturday. Rain, maybe a couple of wet flakes, especially north and west, and then chilly to wrap up your 7-day forecast.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, thousands of dollars for information on a shooting. The latest on the investigation into the murder of a 16-year-old student. After months with your windows closed because of winter, why the air inside your homes could be actually worse than what's outside. Next, we have some solutions to improve your air quality. The air quality inside your home can be worse than the air you breathe outside during the winter months. But as Consumer Reports explains, there are some simple steps that you can take to improve the air you breathe. Patrice Sanders has more.
While newer, more tightly sealed home construction improves energy efficiency, Consumer Reports says it is also partly to blame for indoor pollutants. Where are they coming from? Gas stoves, for one. Tests by Consumer Reports confirm they're a possible source of toxicity and are a cause for concern.
Think ventilation. Use your range hood every time you cook and open windows to get the fresh, clean air from the outside in.
Other pollutants, VOCs, or volatile organic compounds emitted from cleaning agents, pesticides, aerosols, even couches and carpets. The solution?
Whenever possible, avoid using harsh chemicals to clean your home. If you can't, again, think of ventilation. Open windows and doors.
Keep your home dust-free by using a vacuum with a HEPA filter to trap contaminants and clean or change the filters in your air conditioner. Air purifiers can also help. Alene, Winix, and Blue Air models earn top marks in Consumer Reports tests. Another pollutant, mold. Consider a dehumidifier. Consumer Reports highly rates Honeywell, Medea, and Home Labs. Consumer Reports also recommends checking for radon, a radioactive gas that can seep into your home from water and soil. And if your house was built around 1980 or before, check for asbestos and lead. You may want to work with a professional to see what options you have to make sure that your home is safe. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, the Baltimore City Council grills BGE officials on their deal with Mayor Scott. The latest from a public hearing that's about to start. And former Governor Hogan calls the state assembly out of touch, why he believes lawmakers are not making progress when it comes to crime bills in Annapolis. A young life cut short. How the community is reacting to yesterday's deadly shooting of a teenager in Baltimore and the new developments in the investigation.
Governor Hogan one-on-one, Fox 45 News asking for his take on crime bills in Annapolis and what his own future holds.
And the Ravens franchise tagging Lamar Jackson, what that means for the quarterback's long-term future in Baltimore, in a live report coming up.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
It's like the first thing anybody wants to do is pull out a gun and shoot somebody.
I do think that it's a little absurd that children are walking around with guns shooting one another, but not anything out of the ordinary.
We continue our coverage right now on the statewide crime crisis following the death of a 16-year-old named Isaiah Carter.
Plus, Fox 45 News pressing leaders in Baltimore County for answers on what's being done to stop violent crime there from starting. And we're talking with former Governor Larry Hogan about the crime plans from Democrats and Republicans in Annapolis. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Our team coverage tonight begins with Alexa Ashwell, who has the latest on the investigation into Isaiah Carter's death. Alexa.
Kai, Mary, right now members of the community gathering for what we're told will be a vigil for the teen here at the park. Officials today identifying the teen as Isaiah Carter and offering an $8,000 reward for information regarding who shot him here at this park and why.
This is the Patterson High School student, Isaiah Carter, 16 years old and, according to the district, a member of the junior ROTC, who police say was shot and killed in a park next to his school in southeast Baltimore around 2 yesterday afternoon. An $8,000 reward now being offered for information in his case.
I'm a retired teacher, so it breaks my heart. Like, it's disgusting, and I feel so terrible. The parents think they're in school, and here they are dead in the park.
Detectives returning to the scene at Joseph Lee Park, where forensic techs were also seen taking additional pictures. Leftover crime tape marking the area where the shooting happened during school hours. According to the police commissioner, witnesses reported hearing gunshots coming from the park and then saw people scattering from the scene.
There were a number of witnesses who told us they heard gunshots and that multiple people were running in different directions away from the scene from where the victim fell.
The commissioner detailing responding officers found the teen lying on the ground with gunshot wounds. He was rushed to an area hospital where a short time later was pronounced dead.
I saw tons of helicopters and just people running down there, to the park, and it was terrifying.
Neighbors troubled by the crime, particularly involving youth.
The kids are out of control around here. I literally see them come through the field there, guns in their hands, sitting right there on the corner with guns in their hand. And it's gotten to where I won't even sit out on my front porch no more.
And while police have not yet released what they believe led up to this shooting,
what we need to know right now is who would have been with this student, why they were in the park at this hour.
This is yet another case of a student falling victim to gun violence near their school and during school hours.
The schools have protocols in place.
The district superintendent responding when questioned if the city has a problem keeping kids in schools.
We are looking at larger community issues that touch schools because schools are part of the community.
They say they have cameras. Well, they need to have people at the doors and they need to have old school attendants. I'm just praying that they find whoever did this.
And right now, a live look at people beginning to gather for this evening's vigil. We're told this is going to be hosted by the Bayview Community Association. As for Patterson High School, classes were canceled today. A district spokesperson tells me they will resume tomorrow with counselors on hand. As for this investigation, no suspect information has been released. Reporting live in southeast Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Well, Isaiah Carter is the fifth young person shot and killed in Baltimore this year. The first was 17-year-old Deja Garrison. She was shot and killed New Year's Day. 16-year-old Deontay Dorsey was shot and killed just days later at the shopping center across the street from his school, Edmondson Westside High. 4 of his classmates were also shot and wounded. 15-year-old LaRon Henderson was shot and killed along Liberty Heights Avenue on January 25th. And 16-year-old Andre Moreno Jr., also a student at Edmondson West High, was shot and killed in Northeast Baltimore last month.
A family spokesperson for Deontay Dorsey, one of the teens killed in this year, is speaking out. Tharu Vignaraja called for more to be done to stop violence against children in the city, saying too many families have had to bury children.
We're going to start forgetting those names because it is happening at such a pace. The city's leadership needs to understand that this is a grim cycle, that if nothing wakes them up, if the violence of the last 8 years has not done enough to wake them up, this surely has to.
Well, so far this year, both fatal and non-fatal shootings are down in Baltimore compared to this time last year. 45 lives have been lost so far. 86 people have been shot. But the last 8 years have been dangerous in our city, as more than 300 lives have been lost each year. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost had a chance to sit down one-on-one with Maryland's former governor as the General Assembly continues to debate legislation targeting violent crime. Mackenzie, you asked Governor Larry Hogan, former Governor Larry Hogan, about the city's crime crisis, and he isn't holding back, is he?
Yeah, Mary, that's right. Larry Hogan says he believes the General Assembly in Annapolis is out of touch with what community members want when it comes to crime plans. Before leaving office, Hogan told me that one of his biggest regrets was not getting that Violent Firearms Offender Act passed and signed while he was still in office. Now Republicans in Annapolis are trying it again, but it's unclear if that plan will see a better future this time. Out of office and opening up about what's happening inside the State House, especially when it comes to anti-crime legislation. The Republican caucus carrying the torch forward for former Governor Larry Hogan on the Violent Firearms Offender Act. It seeks to implement tougher penalties for gun offenders, especially repeat offenders. Didn't clear the House while you were in office. Do you think that they're barking up the wrong tree with this bill that didn't see success in the past, or do you think it's worth it?
No, I think it's absolutely worth it. I think it's one of the most important things we can possibly do, which is why we pushed for it every year. Things have changed a little bit since then.
Hogan says that change
the Office of State's Attorney of Baltimore City
is City State's Attorney Ivan Bates, who campaigned on getting tougher on crime.
The General Assembly is just so far out of touch with their constituents. Ivan Bates at least is a state's attorney in Baltimore who says, yes, this is a problem we want to tackle.
Bates's bill faces an uphill road to pass right now, with some criticism and concern about more people in jail. Despite Bates arguing his plan is needed to get a handle on gun violence gripping Baltimore and other cities. Hogan used his position in the State House to urge lawmakers to pass his plans, but those efforts unsuccessful. When you were in office, do you remember any piece of legislation that cleared both chambers and made it to your desk that implemented tougher penalties for violent offenders?
Well, the Violent Offenders Act did not pass, but we did pass some better crime bills where we passed RICO statutes that enabled us to help take down criminal gang enterprises. We are facing every single person in Baltimore City being opposed to doing anything about violent crime.
Now some Democrats say they are open to looking at certain crime bills.
Good morning, everyone.
We pressed Senate President Bill Ferguson just last week, a Democrat from Baltimore City, on if his chamber will get on board with the GOP-backed Violent Firearm Offender Act too. So is there appetite for that bill?
I think it's in consideration, something that I support. I think we're having conversations across both chambers about what might be feasible. There's a lot more work that has to go to make sure that we have real safe communities.
Not a clear yes or no from the Senate leader. While Hogan has plenty of time now that he's out of office, lawmakers are running up against the clock to get crime bills done before the end of session on April 10th. Now, the former governor is also facing some criticism when it comes to staffing levels within state government. Democrats argue that he let the staffing numbers get too low, especially within the parole and probation divisions. I asked the former governor about that, and he says he maintains his move, saying that a smaller government was better for everybody. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Law enforcement gathering today to honor Baltimore County Police Detective Jonathan Shee as he leaves a University of Maryland rehabilitation center. Detective Shee was shot and hospitalized in critical condition during the manhunt for 24-year-old David Linthicum in Cockeysville last month. According to charging documents, he was hit multiple times before his car was taken by the suspect. And just yesterday, Linthicum was indicted. He now faces 27 counts. The indictment includes 16 new counts alleging Linthicum tried to murder 2 officers. According to documents, the manhunt began after his father called officers saying his son was suicidal. Right now, Linthicum is being held without bond.
Well, the manhunt last month is just one of a number of recent violent crimes that took place in Baltimore County. And leaders are now promising that they are taking steps to keep the community safe. Fox 45's Olivia Dance joins us live from Towson after speaking with the county executive about his crime-fighting strategy. Olivia?
Yeah, well, Kai, the most recent shooting happened just about 2 weeks ago right here off of Delaware Avenue. And this shooting really happened right in the heart of Towson. So to give you some perspective, the mall is just to my side here. And then about a block down this road is Towson Circle. But Baltimore County leaders believe that they have a plan that will prevent crime like this from happening again.
Within weeks, several violent incidents in Towson have residents on edge.
It's like nerve-wracking to feel like, is that day ever going to come where he doesn't make it back to his apartment from school or make it to school?
Shelley Maxwell's son goes to Towson, and the recent crime has her concerned for his safety. At the start of February, 3 people were raped at gunpoint off of Towson Circle. And then on Super Bowl Sunday, there was a shooting near Chesapeake and Washington Avenues. And less than 2 weeks ago, a 17-year-old was shot and killed right near the mall.
They need more police down this way and instead of other ways, because they ain't got a lot down here. You see a lot of people doing a lot of things down here they shouldn't be doing.
Towson residents like Pamela Collins want Baltimore County leaders to step up. And County Executive John Olszewski is promising to increase safety measures.
It's one of my most important jobs. I will do whatever it takes to make sure that we, again, both are safe and that people feel safe in their neighborhoods and their communities.
Tell us about what you're doing differently than you were, say, 2 weeks ago that's proactive in preventing crime.
So, I would first say it was a swift and it was a strong response. We did step up our patrols, both on foot. We're looking at bike patrols, more cameras, more lights, additional license plate readers. So we are really taking proactive measures.
Olszewski says the county takes crime seriously.
I think people need to be held accountable. We know in the instance of one of the violent crimes in Towson, there was an individual who was only sentenced to a few days by an Anne Arundel County judge.
He's referring to Quancy Davis, the man responsible for raping 3 people at gunpoint in Towson last month. According to police, Davis was prohibited from even being able to possess a firearm after being arrested in 2021 in Anne Arundel County. Right now in Annapolis, proactive steps are being taken to prevent crimes like this, as some Republican-backed bills are aiming to make gun theft a felony and increase penalties for repeat gun offenders.
The legislation, like the 2 things I just mentioned that we're seeing right now in Annapolis, that seems to be taking proactive steps when it comes to gun offenses, that it's safe to say that you do support that?
We support proactive measures to keep our community safe. I don't know that we've weighed in specifically on those pieces of legislation, but we support legislators taking action to make sure our communities are safe.
Now, the county executive told me that he will look into those bills, but didn't directly say if he supports them. In addition, he says that the county will continue to work with business owners and residents to find more ways to make Towson safer. But for now, reporting live in Towson, I'm Olivia Dance, Fox 45 News.
Happening now, the mayor's controversial conduit deal is back up for debate. This is a look at the public hearing just getting underway inside City Council chambers. 3 weeks ago, the mayor approved the contract with BGE despite Comptroller Bill Henry and Council President Nick Mosby boycotting the meeting, hoping to stop that vote. Henry and Mosby arguing they need more time to vet the multi-million-dollar deal. They are now calling the deal invalid, saying the mayor defied city laws by pushing the deal through.
The way that this entire situation has been handled is nothing more than a power grab and move that suits the interests of private industry.
What we're missing here is a judge. I think we've reached the point where it's clear that we just have to agree to disagree.
Well, during the hearing tonight, BGE's executive board will be questioned by City Council about planned maintenance and any other concerns Council has related to their management of the city's conduit system under this new deal.
A group trying to give power to the people of Baltimore, the push to make recalling city leaders possible. And coming up next, the Ravens place a non-exclusive franchise tag on their star player. Sports Unlimited's Morgan Adsit joins us live, looking into exactly what that means for Lamar Jackson and the team.
And for the remainder of the evening commute, it looks like temperatures going to be falling into the 40s, mainly clear skies, a blustery breeze, so 2 hands on the steering wheels, especially over the area bridges. I'm going to let you know how long we're going to stay windy and cold and if we're going to be warming up back to above average again. My Weather Authority forecast.
Quarterback Lamar Jackson will not become a free agent next week.
As expected, the Ravens used the franchise tag on Jackson right before today's 4 p.m. deadline. Morgan Adsit joins us now with what this means moving forward. Morgan.
It means a lot. The Ravens using the franchise tag on Lamar Jackson, and right up to the tag deadline was expected after 2 off seasons of failed negotiations with Jackson, who represents himself, to reach a long-term deal. The Ravens did make this tag incredibly interesting and risky. They went the cheaper route with the non-exclusive franchise tag. This means the Ravens keep Jackson from becoming a free agent next week when the new league year opens March 15th. But other teams can begin talks with Jackson to try to land him as soon as Monday. The Ravens would then have a chance to match that offer sheet or let Jackson go and receive 2 first-round draft picks. The non-exclusive tag is projected to be just north of $32 million. If no offer takes Jackson away, he could play under the tag, but he has to sign it and does not have to report at all this summer. He could even sit out this upcoming season, but that seems highly unlikely. Jackson would not be paid then. The Ravens announced the tag with a statement from GM Eric DeCosta. It reads, "Having not yet reached a long-term deal with Lamar Jackson, we will use the franchise tag. There have been many instances across the league and in Baltimore when a player has been designated with the franchise tag and signed a long-term deal that same year. We will continue to negotiate in good faith with Lamar, and we are hopeful that we can strike a deal long-term that is fair to both Lamar and the Ravens. Our ultimate goal is to build a championship team with Lamar Jackson leading the way for many years to come." Both sides have until July 17th to reach that long-term deal. If not, it will be the tag. But before all of that, the Ravens need to make cuts or restructure deals by next Wednesday for cap space to cover this Jackson's $32 million now.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, the HD radar showing us at around here, we are capped with some snow up in New York State and also Pennsylvania and New England. Here in Baltimore, actually had a couple of sprinkles and a couple of flakes earlier on, especially up, excuse me, especially up near the state line this morning and midday. Those now gone, and then there's another weather maker that's out to the west. Going to be a couple of days till we get anything around here, but the cold, well, at least for March standards, it's set up after a really warm January and February. Now we're at 51, which is smack dab on average for a high temperature this time of year. Here in Baltimore, we're a little above average by a degree or two today. I think we'll fall below average next several days. Winds out of the west-northwest at 21, humidity at 21%. It is dry and it is almost kind of cold. Winds out of the west-northwest, 15-25, some gusts up to about 40+. That's been the case past couple hours here in Baltimore. 37-mile-an-hour gusts at Annapolis, and about 20 to 25 north and west up against Blue Ridge with about 30 to 35-mile-an-hour gusts. Temperatures all across the board in the 40s to right around 50 degrees, so certainly jacket weather, and temperatures out to our west falling off like rocks, about 12 to 25 degrees colder than just 24 hours ago, and a cold front making it all the way down to almost the Gulf Coast. So the warmer air locked behind that, colder air that's set up, and the next weather maker could give us, as you see here, as we head into Wednesday and Thursday, it's forecast to get in here on Friday. Maybe a chilly rain. There couldn't be a couple wet flakes mixed in with that. Future Scan says overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, the forecast goes cold. Probably the upper 20s to around 30 as you wake up. And then by tomorrow afternoon, back into the 40s to near 50. Still a good breeze going all day long there. So the forecast for tonight, 28. Breeze is still kicking. Clear skies and a few clouds a late night. For tomorrow, 49, blustery and chilly. Those temperatures right at or even below average by about 2-3 degrees. And then we're near average with tons of sun on Thursday. Some rain developing on Friday into Saturday. Some of the computer models say there couldn't be some slushy snow mixed in, especially north and west. That's something to watch. But again, most of that with March sun angles should melt. It's something to watch so closely. We spring ahead early Sunday, of course, lose an hour of sleep, and we gain an hour on the sunset. Rain or snow shower by next Monday.
A health alert, an increase in infants dying in Baltimore. The concerns after an alarming increase in the number of sleep-related deaths. Across the country, bus drivers saying they're living in fear. A closer look at concerns in one major city with people openly smoking fentanyl on public transit. Addicted America. As communities across the nation battle the fentanyl crisis, bus drivers are voicing their fears and frustrations. Jeremy from our Sinclair sister station in Seattle spoke with a driver there who says they're afraid of drug use on their buses.
I just enjoy driving the bus.
Stevan Williams is proud to be a driver for the King County Metro bus system.
It still is a great job besides the fentanyl smoking on the bus.
But he says nobody should be proud of the way things are on buses in Seattle right now.
You have people on there smoking right beside passengers, right beside mothers with little children.
It's understandable that drivers and passengers are worried about being next to fentanyl smoke. But amazingly, some King County health officials seem to suggest it isn't a problem at all.
We're not seeing folks developing secondhand exposure from touching, this is just not happening.
In a Metro Transit meeting last year, Thea Oliphant-Wells from King County Public Health said there's no data to suggest fentanyl smoke is a hazard to riders or drivers. And in fact, she said smoking in public is safer for the fentanyl user.
We want people to be using in a place where if they overdose, they can be discovered.
According to the health department's website, there's no real risk for the everyday person being exposed to secondhand opioid smoke. For a week, we've asked to speak with the health department, but they declined an interview, despite their claims that media gets it wrong when covering fentanyl dangers.
We have so much false reporting around fentanyl. There's a lot of misinformation that's out there.
Metro numbers show there were 1,885 reports of drug use on buses in 2022. 52 bus operators reported being exposed to smoke from drugs, and 16 bus drivers filed for workman's comp due to chemical exposure.
This isn't secondhand smoke. This is smoke being lit on aluminum foil that's coming directly into the air that us bus drivers are breathing. And it makes me really, really sick.
Stevan says he knows the impact that fentanyl smoke is having on his own health. He's currently on leave for medical testing.
I don't want to be put in a predicament where I'm around drugs every day on my job that I didn't sign up for.
And he says unless something changes, he's not sure he'll be back in the driver's seat.
It's for the drug users. They're looked out for first.
Well, concerns over mass incarceration holding up a crime bill in Annapolis, breaking down concerns that harsher gun penalties could lead to too many people in jail.
When did you decide running for president wasn't going to be in your cards?
It was really just over the past week or so. I'm going to continue to try to head the party in that direction.
What's next for Larry Hogan? More from Mackenzie's exclusive one-on-one with former governor and his plans for the future.
I did a lot of soul searching. It basically came down to both personal decisions and, I thought it was the right thing to do for the party and the country.
New tonight, former Governor Larry Hogan is opening up about his decision not to run for president during a one-on-one interview with Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost.
That's right, and Mackenzie joins us live. And Mackenzie, Hogan is he saying what's next for him?
Well, that's the question, Mary Kai, that everybody is talking about and asking him. He says that he wants to stay involved in politics and really helping Republicans, he says, move away from Donald Trump. He says this decision to not run for president came within the last week or so. And really, he says it comes down to the fact that he believes that there's a small, moderate lane for Republicans to run in the presidential election. And he says the more people who get into that moderate lane really could help Donald Trump clinch the nomination moving forward.
I want to be a part of the solution. I want to be a voice that can bring some kind of sanity back to the discussion. But I'm not sure if that means elective office or not.
So you're not ruling out a Senate run?
Well, I've never been very interested in the Senate. Not any interest in the Senate, actually. I'm not really cut out to be a legislator. Going to Washington, arguing with 99 other people and never getting anything done. I'm not sure I'd be passionate about doing that every day.
Now, Hogan is also a national co-chair of a centrist group called No Labels. And No Labels right now is floating the idea of what they call a unity ticket in 2024, offering a third option for voters. I asked Larry Hogan if he was courted for that idea, and he says he thinks that it's an interesting proposal, but says he's not completely sold that that's the best option.
It's not something I've been pushing at all or considering, but that may be an insurance policy. If those two are the nominees, they put together some type of a unity ticket. But it's not something I'm actively considering.
Do you think that's a good idea, or do you worry that that would help one candidate over the other?
I'm not sure. Look, I think we're very far away from that. We're a year from the first primary, and we won't know the nominees for a year and a half. But it's an interesting prospect in that a lot of people are frustrated with both political parties, but I don't really see that as a real possibility.
Now, when it comes to supporting the potential or whoever does clinch the Republican nomination for president, Larry Hogan tells me he would not support Donald Trump. But what about other candidates? I asked him about the possibility of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis getting that nomination. And Hogan says that DeSantis is a definite possibility for this, even though DeSantis hasn't actually announced his candidacy yet. But Larry Hogan also says that there's plenty of time for other candidates to make their pitches to voters as we get a little bit closer to the 2024 cycle. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
In a city in crisis, a man shot multiple times early this morning. Police say it happened just before 2 o'clock on South Bentlow Street near the West Side Shopping Center. Officers arrived at the scene to find a 38-year-old man who was shot multiple times. His injuries are considered not life-threatening. Anyone with information should contact Baltimore City Police. As of this morning, 45 people have been killed in the city. 86 people have been shot and survived. That's compared to 59 people killed in 116 non-fatal shootings this time last year.
Well, frustration with city leaders' response to the crime crisis and other key issues impacting Baltimore residents, sparking Action from Peace, the group that worked to put term limits for elected leaders on the ballot in November. Fox 45 Shannon Lilly reports from City Hall with how the group says it is working to make your voice heard.
Yeah, in a press conference here at City Hall today, the group Peace says they have personally seen the change that people in the community are wanting and needing, and they are here to bring forth that change and give the power back to the people.
Our work is really just getting started.
A grassroots organization delving into the corruption of Baltimore City.
I'm sure most of us are still reeling from yet another death of yet another young person in Baltimore City. But I have to remind you that what's going on right now in our city is a symptom of some of the policies that we have seen over the last 8 years.
The People for Elected Accountability and Civic Engagement holding this press conference Tuesday morning following their first in a series of town hall meetings last month. It was there at Concord Baptist Church that Peace's newest spokesperson, Eurypsy Morgan, says they saw a community neglected.
The nature of the things that they were asking for was outrageous. Speed bumps. Think about that. A stop sign in your community. What they're asking for are basic quality of life issues. And that's what politicians are ignoring. That's why peace exists, so that we can bring that accountability through big changes.
Those big changes, they say, will be driven by you.
We are going to continue to hold these press conferences. We're going to continue to hold town halls.
Those town halls across all 14 districts in Baltimore, working to find out which issues matter most. Meanwhile,
mistakes are made, but we should not have to wait 4 years to correct a mistake.
The group also working on a possible recall charter amendment regarding city officials that, if able to garner enough signatures, could be on your ballot come November. The recall would make it possible to boot out a politician before the end of their term.
Given the nature of crime and violence and the lack of accountability in Baltimore, maybe it shouldn't be 4 years. Maybe there should be a mechanism by which residents of Baltimore City can recall politicians who are ignoring them.
Now, this is the same group that worked to place question K on your ballot back in November. You, the voters, approved it, creating term limits for elected officials. Reporting from City Hall, I'm Shannon Lilly, Fox 45 News.
Well, the group Peace will be holding its next town hall on March 14th in the 3rd District at Jerusalem Evangelical Lutheran Church, beginning at 6:30 at night.
Anything anyone saw, heard, or believed happened in this playground needs to be reported to the police right away. Yet again, we're talking about young people using guns against other young people. And so it has to stop.
Well, so far, there's been little progress on the violent crime and the recent surge in youth violence, which are major concerns for residents. Just last night, another child was killed in Baltimore. 16-year-old Isaiah Carter was shot at a playground near Patterson High School. He's the 15th killed in the city this year. 2 weeks ago, a Baltimore City High School student was shot and killed in Towson. 17-year-old Trayshawn Harmon was killed near Towson Circle. County leaders say that shooting was the result of an argument between two groups.
In Annapolis, Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates trying to crack down on gun violence across the state by increasing penalties. The bill would increase the minimum penalties for carrying an illegal handgun from 3 to 5 years. Despite bipartisan support, momentum for the proposal seems to be slowing, as a second hearing date to move the bill has not yet been set.
Well, meantime, opponents of the city state's attorney Ivan Bates' plan say it will make the mass incarceration problem worse. Fox 45's Megan Gillen is evaluating those claims and has a closer look at those numbers.
The new city state's attorney says he's not going to allow the opposition to keep him from doing what he believes is necessary to help fight crime in the city. And now a closer look at the numbers that could be on his side. It's a push for tougher gun laws that's facing pushback. City State's Attorney Ivan Bates wanting a juvenile crime bill which would increase maximum penalties for first-time illegal gun offenders from 3 years to 5 years across the board. But some opponents say the new gun law might not help in the crime fight and could instead trigger what they call mass incarceration. Bates speaking out on Fox 45 News, taking issue with opponents questioning their understanding of the term.
Why is anyone pushing back to make something uniformed? I don't understand. But, you know, there are a number of individuals, the academic, the scholars, so to speak, they're the ones who says mass incarceration. I think they're very confused about what mass incarceration is.
Dr. Richard Vatz.
In rhetoric, we talk about what language focuses on.
Is a professor of rhetoric and communications at Towson University. He believes opponents of Bates's policies got it wrong.
With mass felonies, that's the issue, not the fact that people are being incarcerated. Simply saying too many people are being put in jail, you've got to ask, what are they being put in jail or prison for? If they're being put in jail or prison for felonies, there's no problem. As a matter of fact, there may be insufficient incarceration.
We looked at the numbers, crimes and arrests in Baltimore City in 2022. According to Fox 45's research and reporting, there were more than 26,000 total crimes in the city last year, with just over 12,000 arrests in a city with more than 576,000 residents. Of those crimes last year, nearly 600 non-fatal shootings with a clearance rate of 23.3%. So more than half of those crimes committed in Baltimore City don't lead to arrests, and those arrested make up a slight percentage of all citizens in Baltimore, roughly 2.1%. The number shrinks further if you focus solely on shootings. Of those actually arrested, that comes out to 132 people. Many of them, police have said, caught with illegal handguns. Supporters saying critics pointing to mass incarceration as a reason to oppose Bates's bill might not know the numbers.
It doesn't really affect them or their community, so it's something to be in opposition of, just to be in opposition of.
Bates's bill has the support of some lawmakers, including Democratic State Senate President Bill Ferguson. Meantime, it's not yet known when the legislation will be brought up for a committee vote. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
Former President Donald Trump is calling for Capitol rioters to be freed from prison. The fallout from the House Speaker's decision to release January 6th security tapes.
I'm Christine Frizzell on Capitol Hill with a look at the fate of the U.S. economy, what we learned from the chairman of the Federal Reserve.
And we've got a chill that's coming for the next several days. I think temperatures are going to be looking kind of cold. Temperatures only up near 49 for tomorrow with a good wind going. I'm going to let you know we could have some rain and snow in our forecast. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast after this.